Hello everyone, Underdog Chris here, bringing you my first ever video essay on why the Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel anime deserve a fair chance. Now, I'm sure we've all heard the same things about them by now, or perhaps these may be things that you could have also said yourself about Rush Yu-Gi-Oh! Such as Rush Duel's ruining Yu-Gi-Oh! Or that the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows suck now, or that the shows are too childish and etc. I can understand that the newer stuff may not be everyone's cup of tea. However, with this video, I'll be going over some common misconceptions and addressing some gripes that people have with Rush Yu-Gi-Oh! Before giving you all a few reasons why you should check the newer anime out. With all of this in mind, I hope you all are able to look at this era of Yu-Gi-Oh! In a much better light and give it a fair shot in the future. While I am a fan of both the classic Studio Gallop Yu-Gi-Oh! And the new Studio Bridge Yu-Gi-Oh!, I can understand people's grievances and where they are coming from when it comes to issues they have with the newer anime, as there was a tonal shift between Brains and all the shows prior, which had a serious tone and high stakes, to Sevens, which also had its own set of stakes but was a lot more comedic than the past shows as well. However, the newest installment of the Rush Duel anime, Go Rush, seems to be taking the best of both worlds and giving us the higher stakes that were around in the older shows while also retaining some of the comedic aspects they have now. Another gripe that I've seen that I would like to address is how the characters went from being 16 years old or older to 11-year-olds. However, younger characters should not be a detriment to a show, but again, Go Rush also seems to have addressed this issue by having a 2-year time skip in the middle of the anime's run, which is unprecedented for Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows. Usually when there's a time skip in the middle of an anime, it's usually about 6 months, such as the case with Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds right after the Dark Signers arc and Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains after the events of the first season. Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal's main characters were 13 and the main characters in Arc 5 were 14 as well, and those were not really detriments to those series as a whole. And if anything, Zexal, which was known as the black sheep of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime franchise for so long, has been getting a lot more love in the recent years. Pokemon as well has had Ash Ketchum as their 10-year-old protagonist for 25 years, and the new main characters for the new Pokemon Horizons series, Liko and Roy, are also 10 years old, and all three of them, as of right now, are beloved within the Pokemon community. But what this point really shows is that you are still able to tell a good story and get positive reception for these characters despite them not being older in age. Another thing that I have seen that was being spread around is the fact that people think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains quote-unquote ended early for Sevens, when that is not the case at all. There is no correlation between the two, as Brains ended on September 25th, 2019, but Sevens had not actually started until April 4th of 2020. These two events were a whole 6 months apart, so that's why the whole Brains ending early for Sevens narrative just isn't true, because realistically, Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens would have started the week right after Brains ended had this been the case. Not to mention, Studio Gallop had been going through various production issues which went as far back as the later half of the Arc 5 anime's run, so by this point, they no longer were at the capacity they once were to keep making Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows. However, despite there being all of these misconceptions, there are plenty of reasons to check out the Rush Duel anime. To start, they seem to be treating their female characters a lot better when compared to the previous Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows, which might sound like a bit of a stretch to some people. However, when you take a look at some of the tropes that have been done in the past, you can clearly see that in the newer shows, the treatment of the female characters has gotten better. To start, the damsel in distress trope is not really a thing with the female characters of Bridge Yu-Gi-Oh!, and the brainwashing gimmick is nowhere near as prevalent as it once was. And to add on to that, Roman Kirishima is one of, if not the currently best treated female lead in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! She has an impressive dueling record of 7 wins and only 3 losses throughout the show's run, with some very important wins being among them, and her character arc also comes to a pretty satisfying conclusion as well. There's not only Roman, but there's also Asana Mutsuba, the first ever main female antagonist whose development and duel record were also pretty good. She may not have been the female lead, but she still had plenty of moments to shine as well. going toe-to-toe with one of the other 7's main antagonists, Nail Saionji, for one of the best duels of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's during the second season. And in Go Rush, Yuumu Odo is the current female lead, who is the literal embodiment of a girl boss, as she is the current UTS, or Ultra Terrestrial Trouble Solution Company's president, and has been shown to be a very intelligent person as well as a very capable duelist. She is off to a great start, and I can't wait to see how she continues to play a role in the anime moving forward. Goha Yuna is also an interesting character who gets an important shocking win during her debut, and she even goes through her own development as well. She also has a deep connection with the 7's protagonist Yuga Odo. Asaka Mutsuba, who we can assume is Asana's ancestor, also plays a significant role in the Go Rush anime, being the most important person when it comes to running Mutsuba Town, the main setting for Go Rush. One other thing that the Rush Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows have going for them is their attention to detail and their ability to go back and reference plot points that were touched on in previous episodes. With 7's and Go Rush, they usually wrap things up with a nice little bow, and even reference side characters who appear to be merely in the background only for them to play a role later on. Meanwhile, Gallop Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a lot more things that ended up either being unfortunately scrapped or altered midway through, such as Yuya vs. Yugo in Arc 5 not taking place, the line about the Hanoi spy from Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains leading nowhere, and Sly stealing Yusei Stardust Dragon in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds also never happening, among other things. The list goes on, but the point being that the Rush Duel anime has been doing a better job at revisiting certain plot points than the previous shows. Another appealing aspect of the Rush Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows is how unpredictable they can get at times. There have been many duels in these two current shows that have kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time. The duels feel like there's a lot of back and forth action going on, and sometimes it's hard to tell who's gonna win. As time has gone on, Rush Yu-Gi-Oh! Seems to be taking bigger and bigger risks with bigger payoffs in the long run. They are not afraid of getting out of their comfort zone and doing things that would not have been done in past shows, such as not making the main protagonist the best duelist of the show. For better or for worse, Yuga is not the best duelist of 7's, but that is a good thing, because as much as I loved Vrains, there were many times where I did not feel as hooked or invested in a duel, knowing that Playmaker/Yusaku would be okay at the end of the day. There were a few times where Yusei Fudo from 5Ds could have lost as well, but for some reason, the writers would be hesitant on going through with it. Those two were practically untouchable dueling-wise during their respective series, but that's not to discredit any of the trials and tribulations that those two have gone through, as despite not losing a duel, these two have gone through some of the worst traumas imaginable, which could be another topic for another day. And with all that being said, that about wraps this video up. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for watching until the end. I hope that with all of the points that I've made, that I've managed to convince you that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel anime deserve a fair shot to be watched. If you liked the video, or have any feedback, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow my Twitter linked in the description. Thank you, and I hope you all have an amazing day.